Hey, that's a Soda Pop from Soda Hughes, and you are watching the Malak channel. And today we've got a really exciting book. We've got the movie art of Sid Mead, visual futurist. I've been watching a lot of interviews and looking up stuff about Sid Mead. So, is that number 5? Did he do number 5 too? Alright, anyway, this is a big one. Hopefully it fits. I've also readjusted my cameras and lighting setup, so hopefully there's less glare. This book looks like maybe not. Maybe it's not too coated. But, trying to make sure there's less reflection, so less of the book is lost. But I can only put the lights so far away because my little studio room is only so big, I might have to start using wax paper as a diffuser or something. Yeah, Sid Mead. Very fascinating designer. But yeah, that's him. It's it's hilarious because he did not look at all what I thought he would look like. And when he was creating, like when he started working with movies, he had already been working for 20 plus years, and so he wasn't that young when he started working with movies. And I I don't know why, but I imagined him looking different, but he actually looks a lot like my grandpa. And yeah, a lot of these interviews were that he was, in many ways, he became a futurist, and he would talk about his kind of ideas about what would happen in the futures in terms of transportation and all that stuff. Yeah, he talks about his first movie he worked on was Star Trek, the first movie. I watched the first Star Trek after I got an oral surgery, and so I was on a lot of drugs, and I decided I was going to watch a lot of kind of classic movies. And Jesus, the first bit of Star Trek is so slow. It's just this spaceship just slowly docking for so long. This one was really interesting because he was talking about how he had designed the spaceship, and they said, yeah, we like it, but also we want it to have sort of a mechanical look, but that it's been sort of taken over by also organic elements. And you can kind of see this kind of almost spiny, kind of bone-like looking part here, and just some of the line work makes it look sort of organic on top of mechanical, which is a really tough thing to do, to kind of have that sort of power over how it looks in terms of mechanical and organic properties. Yeah, you'll kind of look and you'll see a lot of it seems sort of almost like industrial design. Certain aspects of his art kind of are reminiscent of architectural drawings and blueprints. That's because his focus in terms of design was actually mechanical automotive design. And I think he worked with the automotive industry for a while, but part of what he credits his versatility towards is the fact that I think he came out of Art Center, and with this motorbike he was talking about how he kind of looked at I think it was the cheetah, and he was talking about how part of why cheetah is so fast is the back legs come aggressively in front of the front legs, and he wanted to capture some of that aggression in a motorbike design. He actually talks a lot about kind of injecting sort of things from the animal world into his mechanical designs and his futuristic designs. This one was kind of a futuristic Jaguar, and he said that they wanted to make it more punk, and so he said he just kept adding pipes and stuff. He said if you ever want to make something more cyberpunk, just keep adding crap to it. But also, the way he uses color is just so satisfying. This one, kind of the railway system, he was talking about how he kind of chopped off the front part of it because he was thinking of aerodynamics and how he would want the sort of kind of train to be pushing the air to the outside of the tunnel. He thinks a lot about, even if it's not necessarily true, but he's got this sort of imaginative quality of trying to invent sort of functionality in the worlds he builds. Just look at this. He's also got a really cool signature. Just damn. Even now, I don't think he focuses. Well, now he's since passed away, which is really sad. Oh, this one was interesting. He was talking about how this was one of the original spaceship designs, had kind of this ball in the front, and they were talking about how they wouldn't really work with the shots they wanted to get of the ship because they wanted to get what has become now kind of the iconic spaceship shot where it kind of goes past the camera. And so he created a more sharp, kind of elongated ship design. But yeah, he's very sadly passed away, which makes it even harder to watch those interviews now, because it really humanizes the artist and the creator. This one was interesting because he was talking about how they used mirrors to make it look like the rows of cryogenic chambers went on further. Yeah, he doesn't really focus. I mean, I can tell that maybe he has experience in digital art because he was making some comments about digital art. But he's still, even in his last years making art, still focused on using, as you can tell right here, ink. And also he said that he really liked to work in gouache, which I kind of want to get into at some point. I think that would be kind of cool to learn how to use gouache because I think it really can produce some beautiful results. But yeah, he is also kind of just a humorous person, interesting person to listen to. I highly suggest looking up Sid Mead's interviews. But yeah, he was talking about how there's no Control Z in gouache. You got to either cover it up or scrape it off or restart. And you can tell there's a little bit of coding there. He was talking with an interviewer, and the interviewer was asking him because he said, there's no Control Z. He said, well, what do you think about people who maybe don't work in traditional media or are digital focused now, especially in concept art and promo art? And he said, if you make it work, I respect your mastery of the software, which is an awesome thing for him to say instead of talking down on it, in my opinion. It's a very practical viewpoint. Just so many things he was thinking about as he was crafting the stuff he was making in movies. Sorry, there's a car outside. Hopefully it's not messing the audio too much up. This guy kind of worked with scraps and stuff and was a junker, kind of tinkerer, and so he made his vehicle look like it had been kind of assembled out of different vehicle parts, out of scraps, which was interesting to hear about the backstory of so many of the things he especially did for Blade Runner was interesting to me. Just so many of the things he thinks about. A lot of the things that he was doing that have become a huge part of 80s pop culture, which I feel like has really definitely influences and shapes the way we think futuristic media should look. A lot of this stuff that, crosses over into that 80s futuristic aesthetic, he was already kind of doing in the 60s. They showed some highway illustrations and concepts that he did that really looked ahead of their time. Yeah, it's just so nice. This one's so cool because he was thinking about, this is the interior of the Blade Runner's vehicle. And he was thinking that, maybe the kind of turn signal and traffic indicators would be built on the buildings as they flew through. So these are not in the vehicle. Those are on the buildings, kind of indicators, traffic indicators. And this interface, he was thinking would be something that was like an analyzer for the androids, because from his understanding of the story, they all had mass-produced bone structures, so they all had similar bone structures. It was, the faces were the kind of meat and skin that was altered and customized, but the bones were always the same, so the analyzer would try and look at the skull to identify android models. And, just the attention to detail and the fact that he was willing to dive into that story. And that's one thing he said is, when he first started working for sci-fi movies, to him, he was like, oh, this is just a job. But his view on doing jobs is to just do the best that you can. Because he says, when you really think about it, there's probably always someone who's better than you, so you better give it all you've got. This one's lovely. I love the way he does, it makes me think of, I think it's Dan Kitchener, Dank. He's kind of a street artist. He does night cityscapes. Just the way they do reflectivity of pavement, I think, is wonderful. In fact, the environments are what actually got him to be working on the entire production of Blade Runner. Because initially he was just hired to do the vehicles, he said. But, his work in the environments, really won over the director, and he wanted him involved in the whole film. He also talked about how he was working on kind of this, I guess it was kind of like a futuristic floater bed, he was calling it, kind of like not a sensory deprivation tank, but like a healing pod almost. Oh, maybe that's actually it. He said a lot of things changed in the script. And he was kind of talking about those. You can look at those in the interviews if you want. I don't know if you guys find that stuff interesting, but I did. But one of those scenes was actually canned. And he said he was fairly deep in the drawing, but, as soon as he got the notification, hey, this scene isn't going to be in anymore, he said, I stopped working on the drawing because, for me, design is a job. And that's one of the most he's a designer's designer. It's hard to explain, but, in the industry, it is often, you often see a lot of undervaluing in terms of design. And so he was saying, if you're not getting anything for it, what you have is a hobby, not a profession. And so, he just left that drawing behind. He said it's still unfinished. And, that very pragmatic and professional viewpoint doesn't mean that he's not passionate about it. I feel like when you look at his work, you can tell he's extremely passionate. He's takes care in his craft. He also worked on Elysium. He said he didn't work throughout the whole like Blade Runner, but he did the surface and kind of a lot of fleshing out what the sort of space, the rotating space station, the way that environment would work. It's too bad one of those earlier ones where I was talking about the reflectivity of the pavement, they split right down the middle, which is too bad. But hey, what are you going to do when you want to have the image big? But that would be something that I wouldn't mind hanging up. I might actually try and look for a print of that one at some point. Yeah, he did work on Tron. I remember him talking a little bit about that. He said he was very fortunate. He hit the ground running in terms of working with films. He worked on some big films that were very successful and influential. Short Circuit there and lucky number 5. Oh man. It's kind of a terrible movie, but also a wonderful movie in a way. I'd say it's very indicative of its time. The latest Blade Runner. Really hope, people keep talking about how this one wasn't a success at box offices, but I keep seeing people talk about how great it was. I really hope there's enough pull for another one, because it still doesn't feel very doesn't feel finished. Well, that is the movie art of Sid Mead, Visual Futurist. I'd say that this one is definitely worth a buy if you're interested. Yeah, there's a couple pages that are split, but what are you going to do about some of those? And it's a big book, 253 pages. You can see nice size, good colors, and also just a lot of, it looks like, text to give context to what's going on and background to the drawings, and maybe some commentary by actually Sid Mead himself, because I'm pretty sure this book was published while he was still alive, because I'm pretty sure I saw an interview, really cool interview at kind of a conference where he, I think he talks about this book a little bit with the guy. So I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully there wasn't too much of a glare or anything. Support the channel. Maybe check me out on Patreon, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.
You're such a sweet